Beneath the snow, there is a frog. It is not breathing. Its heart has stopped. Ice crystals have formed inside its actual tissue. By every clinical definition we have, this animal is dead. But you know what? It did this to itself. On purpose.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
Then spring comes around, and this dead frog, it hops away like nothing happened. The wood frog doesn't burrow deep underground to escape the cold like a reasonable creature would. It stays near the surface beneath a thin layer of leaves and lets winter take it. When the temperature drops, the first ice crystal touches its skin and the frog begins to freeze from the outside in. Its liver floods its bloodstream with glucose, a natural antifreeze, which protects the individual cells while everything between them turns to ice. Then it just stops. Breathing stops, heart stops, and brain activity stops. The frog becomes, for all practical purposes, a frog-shaped piece of ice with ambitions, specifically the ambition of not being dead in April. Which honestly, respect. For months it lies there, frozen solid, and then spring arrives, the ice melts, and the heart restarts. The frog hops away, just like that. No drama, no recovery period, just, I'm back now and I have things to do. Science hasn't fully figured out how this is possible. The frog has been doing it for 170 million years. We've had maybe 50 years of serious study. In any case, we're behind and the frog is not waiting for us to catch up. That's chapter 1. Believe me, it gets significantly worse. Now, everyone knows bears hibernate, but nobody knows what actually happens. A bear enters its den in autumn, weighing up to 700 pounds. It has spent the entire summer eating almost constantly. Berries, fish, insects, anything, building fat reserves for what's coming. Then it walks into a hole in the ground and stops. Stops eating, stops drinking, stops urinating, stops defecating. For up to 7 months. Now here's the part that actually should bother you. When a human lies still for weeks without moving, muscles begin to waste. Bones begin to weaken. Waste products build up in the blood and start causing damage. The body begins breaking down from the inside. None of that happens to the bear. Its muscle mass stays almost completely intact. Its bones don't weaken. Its kidneys, and I need you to appreciate how insane this is, take the waste products that would poison any other mammal and recycle them back into usable protein. A bear produces almost no urine for 7 months, and somehow turns what should be toxic buildup into building material. We don't fully understand how. Bear hibernation has been studied for decades. The exact mechanisms that prevent the cellular damage that would kill most other mammals are still being worked out. And then, be ready. Female bears give birth during hibernation. The cub's first experience of its mother is meeting her while her heart is beating 8 times a minute, and her body is running in a state that is not quite sleep and not quite consciousness and not quite anything we have a good name for yet. The bear doesn't fully wake up. It just has cubs. And somehow it works. Idiots. Brilliant. Impossible. Deeply unreasonable idiots. And by the way, if you've made it this far, hey, hello, it's me. Please subscribe. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, but honestly, the frozen frog has more signs of life than my subscriber count right now. So please just hit the button and help me survive. Now, before winter arrives, the honeybee hive makes a decision. Some of them have to go. The males, we call them drones, spend summer being fed by the colony. Their job is reproduction. They don't forage or make honey. They wait to mate with a queen from another hive. In summer, this is tolerated. In autumn, when the flowers are gone and every calorie the hive owns is a calorie the hive needs to survive winter, the drones become a problem. The workers stop feeding them and then they drag them toward the entrance. The drones attempt to return, the workers block them. And look, I'm not saying bees invented workplace redundancy, but I'm not saying it. Outside, without the warmth of the hive and without food, the drones die. This happens in every healthy hive, every autumn, without exception. The bees did not invent mercy. And then the remaining bees do something that should not be possible. Every surviving bee crushes itself against the others, and they become one thing. Not a colony anymore, but literally one organism. A living furnace made entirely of bodies. The bees on the inside vibrate their flight muscles so hard they generate heat without ever leaving the ground. Not flying, just burning. The outer layer absorbs the cold while the inside stays warm enough to survive. When the bees on the outside get too cold, they push inward. The warm ones move out to replace them. Tens of thousands of bees, rotating, pulsing, and breathing as one thing in the dark. All winter, without stopping. The thing is, this strategy only works above a certain size. If too many bees die, the cluster gets smaller. A smaller cluster generates less heat. Less heat means more bees die. More deaths mean a smaller cluster. An even smaller cluster means even less heat. Once that spiral starts, it doesn't stop. Tens of thousands of bees. One organism, burning through the summer's honey 1 calorie at a time, hoping the winter ends before the food does. Then, we have a red fox in Canada who found a dead moose in November. It was still eating it in February. The moose had died before the first freeze. Big, well-fed. Nothing wrong with it except that it was dead. And the cold had done what cold does. Preserved it, locked it. Turned an enormous carcass into a natural freezer that would stay stocked for months. The fox returned every few days. When it fed, it pushed its head and shoulders between the ribs into the open body cavity and ate what the cold had kept fresh. This is a fox that found the most efficient food source in a landscape that was otherwise trying to kill it and kept coming back until there was nothing left. Winter froze the moose. The fox ate the moose. The very thing that killed the moose kept the moose edible long enough for the fox to survive. I won't say that the fox outsmarted Winter, but it just noticed that Winter had already done the work. Or is that the very meaning of outsmarting it? Either way, it's either genius or the most darkly efficient thing in this entire video. Possibly both. The fox has no opinion on the matter. The fox is full and warm. The moose? Well, he's neither of those things anymore. Rest in peace, moose. An unwilling participant in someone else's survival strategy. Now, for 4 months, emperor penguin fathers stand on the Antarctic ice in complete darkness. They do not eat. Well, they cannot eat. If they leave to find food, the egg dies. Temperatures drop to minus 76 Fahrenheit. Wind hits 124 miles per hour. And the penguin's plan is to stand there, with an egg balanced on his feet. Thousands of fathers, all doing the same thing, all equally miserable, all equally committed. They huddle together and rotate, those on the outside absorbing the worst of the wind, slowly working inward, then back out again, an endless slow shuffle in the dark. Each father keeps the egg tucked under a fold of warm skin called a brood pouch. The egg cannot touch the ice. One stumble, one moment of lost balance. The egg is gone. By the time the female returns from the ocean, the male has lost up to 45% of his body weight. He has been standing in the dark, in the coldest place on Earth, eating nothing, for 4 months. His body has consumed itself down to the minimum required to remain standing. And they say men do nothing. When she arrives and the egg finally transfers and he is free to leave, he walks. Across the ice, to the ocean, on legs that have barely moved in months, on a body that ran out of reserves weeks ago. The Arctic woolly bear caterpillar has been alive for up to 14 years. It has spent most of them frozen. Each Arctic summer lasts only a few weeks. The caterpillar emerges, eats as fast as it can, and then winter returns before it has grown enough to transform. So it freezes, then thaws in spring, then eats desperately for a few weeks, and freezes again. Year after year after year. By the time it finally accumulates enough energy to become a moth, it has experienced more winters than summers. More time frozen than moving. More time resembling a dead caterpillar than a living one. Its entire childhood, if you can call it that, is a sequence of interrupted attempts at existing. It becomes a moth. It mates. It lives for approximately 1 week. 14 years of preparation, 1 week of payoff. I don't know what to do with that information. I'm just passing it on. And then there's the shrew. The Eurasian common shrew is smaller than your thumb. Its heart beats over 1,000 times a minute. It needs to eat every few hours or it dies. Everything about this animal is already an emergency before winter even arrives. It cannot hibernate. Its metabolism runs too fast to slow down safely. It has to stay awake, stay active, keep hunting, in the cold, for months. The problem is that running a body that fasts through winter costs more energy than the shrew can possibly eat. So the shrew does something that no other mammal on Earth does. It gets smaller. Not because it's starving. Its body deliberately, systematically reduces itself as winter approaches. The liver shrinks, the kidneys shrink, the spine shortens, even the skull contracts. And inside that contracting skull, the brain loses up to 20% of its mass. The shrew dismantles its own brain to reduce the energy cost of running it through winter, but then in spring, when food becomes available again, the brain partially regrows. It remains awake the entire time, hunting, moving, operating on a brain that is actively being taken apart and rebuilt around it. This has a name, by the way, Dehnel's phenomenon, confirmed across multiple studies, first described in 1949. Happening right now in shrews across Europe and Asia. I mean, how is nobody talking about this? We spent decades making documentaries about bears going to sleep and apparently forgot to mention that a different animal surgically reduces its own brain every single winter and then grows it back. Idiots. All of us. Every single one of us. So to recap, a frog lets its heart stop every winter and hops away in spring. A bear gives birth unconscious and considers this a normal Tuesday. Bees executed their males in autumn and spent winter vibrating together in the dark, hoping the food outlasted the cold. A fox found a frozen moose and treated it like a subscription meal service until February. Emperor penguin fathers stood in -76 darkness for 4 months, on a body that ran out of fuel in month 2. A caterpillar spent 14 years frozen so it could be a moth for a week. And a shrew dismantles its own brain every winter and grows it back in spring, and nobody told you this and that is a genuine failure of everything. So I guess you can say winter came for all of them. And remember, nature's weird. Winter is brutal, and the inside of a shrew's skull is messier than anyone ever prepared you for, I guess.